Hi, I'm Jean Schumacher, founder of the Plant-Based Academy, where I provide help, support, guidance, and resources to switch to a plant-based lifestyle and get your health back. Today, I have the privilege of connecting with Dr. Nikki Davis. Dr. Davis is a literal rocket scientist, and she turned board-certified family and lifestyle medicine doctor. And her passion is to educate others on how to prevent and reverse chronic lifestyle-related disease through a whole food plant-based diet. So thank you so much, Dr. Davis, for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I am always thrilled to talk about anything that has to do with plant-based and how that can help reverse disease.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know a lot about except like the rocket scientist, which just blows me away, honestly, just saying. What a transition. But were you, when you decided to do this, were you up against any health issues?
I would say I started my journey pretty early in life. So I was a teenager. I was about 14 when I decided to stop eating meat. And my transition took years, but that's when I kind of started the process. And it was honestly because it was around that time. I mean, that's the time that you start, maybe gaining a little bit of weight and worrying about your body as a woman and all of that. And I thought, this just doesn't seem healthy to me. These greasy hamburgers, I don't see how it's helping me look better and feel better. And so I decided to give that up. And definitely over the years, it helped me be able to lose extra weight and then maintain a healthy weight. I was probably 40 pounds heavier at one point than I am today. So it absolutely, that's probably the biggest thing that I noticed. But I was lucky that I got to start this at a younger age.
How long did it take you to convert? Was it like gradual or is like, I mean, you said you were vegan before, but once you decided to go plant-based, was it like today's the day or was like you just kind of added things in?
Yeah, so I would say kind of both because, when I was 14, that's when I gave up red meat. And then I was probably 17 or 18 when I gave up poultry. And then I think I was around 20 when I gave up fish. And it was honestly like a natural transition for me where it didn't taste good anymore. It kind of grossed me out. And then as I was getting into college, that's when I started learning about like the planet and how the animals are treated and all of that. And it became more serious to me. It wasn't just about, oh, well, I'm vegetarian. And so then in my 20s, that's when I went vegan, but I won't say that I was a healthy vegan. I enjoyed, trying to find those vegan options that were replacement options that were more like junk food. So then I learned about whole food plant based kind of in my later 20s. And that's when it was like, ding, 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 this is it. This is the key to helping people figure out how to make this something that they want to do. Because if it affects your own health, it's not just some kind of like, oh, it'll help the planet. This is your own health. You don't want to be on a specific medication. Then I felt like that was really what would help other people. It certainly helped me making a healthy choice. It really is about eating whole plant foods. So it was a slow transition, but I will say once I really learned the truth about how animals are treated, that was for sure the day that I just said, I'm vegan forever now. And then it was the whole food plant based journey was really learning about the health benefits and then getting to work with some of the plant based doctors and really learning that, wow, this can make a huge difference in people's lives. And that just started the passion of why I decided to transition careers and do this every day.
When you start to learn, you can't unlearn this, the health benefits of it. It's just, it's so profound, when you see that happen. I mean, I know for me personally, I don't know how I could actually think that I was healthy, morbidly obese, constantly being sick. How could I think I was healthy? I mean, honestly, I don't know what I was thinking or processing, But I mean, since that time, I've lost over 100 pounds and kept it off and healed my thyroid, which I was told point blank will not happen and cannot happen. And you'll be on medication for the rest of your life. And I'm like, and reverse fatty liver syndrome and just healed myself on many, many levels. My husband reversed multiple sclerosis. So
Wow.
yeah, I mean, it's like so profound. I mean, did you have cravings when you first, began this transition and how did you handle them?
So I did a study abroad in France when I was in college, and I was a vegetarian at the time. I loved cheese. I mean, we all loved cheese at some point, right? It doesn't matter if it's stinky, soft, hard, whatever it was. I loved it. And so I would say that initially, yeah, it was hard to give up those things. I'm very specific on my why. I know exactly why I'm doing this for the reasons I've talked about: the planet, the animals, and my own health. But we're still all human, right? So I make sure that that stuff isn't in my house. Being a human, we crave those things. We crave sugar and we crave salt and we crave oil. No matter how good you are or how diligent you are, if somebody puts that in your face when you've had a really long day and you're really tired and you're starving, it's really hard to stay away from, no matter who you are. I just make sure that my environment matches what I want my life to look like, what I want my goals of my own health. And so I just do my best to try to keep it clean. And the other thing is not beating yourself up as well, because you're going to have those times, you're going to have those occasions where you're not eating as perfectly as you want and you have those cravings. And just realizing that was just one time and you just get right back on after that.
I have to say the cheese. Oh my gosh. What I want to know is who started the first cheese? Okay, it's the bacteria that makes stinky feet. Okay.
You know,
Like,
that's why it smells like that, right?
yes. And so, wait, so did somebody like milk a cow, put it to the side, and then say, gee, my feet are really dirty. I'm just going to wash it in this milk and come back a couple days and go, hey, this is going to solidify. Let me get a cracker and oh, that tastes. How did that happen? Like,
I
seriously.
know. I
I,
know. And all I can imagine is that the only reason that I loved it was because I mean I had it from the time I was a tiny kid, right? I was just used to it. That's just what we ate. I mean, I had those American sliced cheeses in the fridge that I would just go and grab after school.
right? Or grilled cheese. Oh my God.
Yes, tons of grilled cheese. But it's
Yeah.
interesting. I don't even think about it anymore. I don't it when you say grilled cheese, it's like I have no interest in that. I want my rice and cauliflower. I want my potatoes and broccoli. I want my simple foods that just fill me up and, make me happy, feel good.
And nourish your soul.
They
Oh my
nourish. Yes.
God.
So nourishing.
When
Yeah.
you don't have that, and that level of nutrient intake, what a huge, I mean, once you're at this level, and you're like, you don't have that, it's like your body goes like, hey, what's going on here? And you immediately feel it. It is crazy.
Yeah.
So, has your family followed your lead to change?
Well, first of all, I'm proud to say that I have an 11-year-old who's been plant-based since birth and never been a picky eater. He loves what he eats. It's funny, recently he's been like, "Oh, mom, I don't want to eat healthy food." And I'm like, "But Augie, that's all you eat is healthy food." Like, you know, when we have like that pasta with the sauce on it, that's all healthy. When we have the tofu and the rice and the broccoli, that's healthy food. So he doesn't even realize that what he's eating is healthy food because that's just what has always known. I mean, I have videos of him just chowing down kale salads as like a 5 and 6 year old. Like what kid does that? So yeah, so that, and then of course, once I learned about this, I really wanted my family to be as healthy as possible. I wanted them to follow suit because I want them to be around a long time and I love them. And so I shared this information with my family members, and thankfully, most of them have transitioned to either, mostly plant based or somewhat plant based. So I would say that most of my immediate family are very close to how I eat.
Well, did your son, did he like, go to the birthday parties and there's the cake and ice cream? Did he eat that stuff?
No, no. So I always would make sure that I would just let the parent know that I'm going to be bringing something for him. And I would try to bring something that would be very similar. Like, for instance, I don't know if you've tried Kathy Fisher's carrot cake recipe, but it's excellent. And so I make cupcakes for him and send those with him. So he still gets something that's similar, but it isn't what they're doing, right? So and I don't think he's felt left out. He hasn't said that. I think now that he's in middle school, he's starting to feel the pressure a little bit, where he's mentioned to me, I don't want to be the only vegan, and it's hard and things like that. So we're still working through that. It's a journey. It's a journey for sure.
It is a journey. And, like if he does deviate and caves in, like, they're having pizza at somebody's house or whatever and has a slice of pizza, that's a learning moment when he comes home and goes, oh, I don't feel
Yeah,
good. What'd you eat?
right. Exactly. Exactly. Well, and I think that that happened one time at school where he had something from a friend and didn't realize that it had some kind of dairy in it or something, and he came home sick that day.
Right? And that's a learning moment. Like, what did you eat?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, the worst thing that they have in schools now, these snacks that all the kids are crazy about called Takis. Have you heard of these? It's like a Cheeto on steroids. I mean, the list of ingredients is ridiculous, just horrible. And I'm trying to, Augie's like, all the kids at school have them and everything. Like, Augie, that is not food. That is something that someone created to look like food. It is not food.
Food-like substance. Yeah,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know.
So
But it's
yeah, it's hard to navigate. I mean, there's so much junk food out there. And somehow as parents, we've become okay with feeding our kids that. When I was young, I played on a little soccer league when I was, 5 or 6. And I remember very distinctly how delicious these sliced oranges were that the parents would bring. They'd be a big tub of these sliced oranges. And it was like, oh, it's so delicious. It's refreshing and feels good after you've been running around. And my son plays baseball now. And, you go to the snack shack and it's all candy and it's all junk food. And if parents bring snacks to help share, to share, it's Gatorades and it's candy bars and it's nothing healthy anymore. So I don't
oh,
know. It's like why have we made such a change with how we feed our kids?
well, a lot of it I think is convenience too,
Yeah.
in terms of that because, a lot of women don't have time to make, food or cook it, but there are tips and tricks to learn how to cook plant-based and efficiently as well, so that you're
Yeah.
not in the kitchen for 400 years. But I remember back when my son was wrestling and he transitioned to a plant-based lifestyle, uh, going from ninth to 10th grade. And we'd be at these wrestling matches, like you have to be there like 8 o'clock in the morning, and we would be there like sometimes at 9 o'clock at night. These are
Oh yeah.
tournaments. I'm like, oh my God, like you just sit there bored to tears and there's nothing else to do except eat. And you'd hear that inevitable announcement, the pizza has arrived. And the kid and I
Yeah.
said, don't you even think, because I wouldn't give him money. And I said, don't you even think about it. Because, I would bring a huge cooler of food for him,
Yeah.
I said, eat out of this cooler. And one thing that I would see that I never saw him do is in wrestling, because as you're going through the day, you're going through brackets where eventually, 1 and 2 are wrestling, 3 and 4 are wrestling, and 5 and 6 are wrestling. So you're going to be evenly matched to somebody. And it's a long day. You're tired after wrestling and bored. And so I would see the kids as you're getting through the end of the day and you're starting to move up and getting better matches the matches would go on longer, but the kids invariably, I would see them do this, and their chests would be
Mm,
heaving. They're,
yeah.
I mean, honestly, they couldn't get enough oxygen into their body, and they would like get out of the ring because that would give them like 20 seconds to reset, but I never saw my son would breathe heavy, but not to the level that these kids were doing. And I never saw them put their arms over their head. That just stretches their lungs. Nobody told them to put their arms above their heads, but they would do
Yeah.
it intrinsically because it just stretches your lungs just to get a little bit more oxygen in. And I never saw my son do that. And he was never like as tired as and exhausted as these kids were at the end of the day. He had a
Right.
lot of stamina going, and I attribute that 100% to plant-based foods,
Oh,
as
absolutely.
wrestling. So,
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you think about a piece of pizza with all that cheese and if there's pepperoni on it and all of that, the amount of fat that is in that. And then, there's a really good video on YouTube. It's actually a mouse model where they had a mouse eat a really, or mice eat really high fat meal, and you can see the red blood cells slow down and get sticky. So those are supposed to carry oxygen, right? To all of your capillaries everywhere around in your body, to your brain, everything. And if your blood is now sticky and it's hard to move, it's no wonder that you're having issues with that. So I mean, it happens after one meal.
Exactly. So I was like, do not go to that
Yeah,
pizza. Absolutely not. Do
yeah.
not. I said it will clog you in a New York minute. And he didn't. And you could see, I mean, he was able to take advantage of that because the other kids were having such a difficult time. So
Yeah.
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 And then even once you go plant-based, your stomach, your gut biome, you start to heal that. And then, oh, hey, when you put something in there that's not kosher, your stomach is going to feel it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it is painful. So there were times when he would cave in and do and eat some of that and I'd be like, okay, what did you eat? You know,
Yeah. Yep.
conversation. And try to make it a learning moment while you're sitting there moaning in pain, you know, like, oh,
Right.
but
Right.
what was the most challenging obstacle you faced, going plant-based?
Honestly, I would say probably the community aspect of it, of feeling isolated and feeling weird, having people, oh, you're vegan. Oh, okay. And just kind of feeling left out. Like people don't invite you to things because they know they're going to have to make special accommodations and things like that. And then just feeling like if you're doing this, that this journey that you're on is just you. That's really hard. And I will say it's much easier now that I've been doing it for so long and I do have that support around me. But initially it was tricky. And in fact, I went back and forth from when I initially went vegan back to vegetarian just because of that, honestly, because the people around me were not really supportive of it. You feel left out. So that's where I think it's really, really important to find that support. And you're really lucky if you've got somebody in your home that's supportive, if you have a spouse or a loved one who's supportive, if you have friends who live locally. I mean, in person is best if you can find that community. I started my own potluck here in Salt Lake City just to help, bring community to me. And it helps the other people who join too. And it's amazing. And things like what you're doing with your academy, bringing people together. People need to have these resources where they feel like there are other people doing this, right?
100%, because we meet weekly in the Plant-Based Academy. We have different levels in the academy. We have the plant-based basics for people just starting the journey because you don't know anything and there's so much to learn. And that's what we do in the plant-based academy. We meet weekly. In the beginning, you're like, where am I going to get my protein? And you're going to get that question 500 times. So we talk about how to deal with that question and how to answer that question and to know that you're not going to be curled up in a corner, because do you even know anybody that's protein deficient? Like seriously, do you even know anybody? So, we talk about those kinds of things, but providing that support on a weekly basis and helping people that, when, oh my God, I derailed, and again, just allowing them to have that grace to say, not permission to go crazy, but to say, okay,
Right.
that's in the past. Let's move forward. Make your next meal count. We started a whole meetup group here. We try and meet monthly, and we've been doing this for several years now. So it really helps to be able to connect with people. And then even like within the larger group, we have several, a couple hundred people. Not everybody shows up at every meeting, but we do have quite a large group here on Cape Cod. But within that, we have a core group of people that we get together for Thanksgiving. Oh my God. We're already planning Thanksgiving. Like seriously, we take it serious
I
here.
love that. I wish I lived near you. I'd come by.
I'm serious. Like we take it very seriously. Like we do Christmas, we do New Year's, just like our core group. Like we want to make sure no one is like by themselves, for the holidays
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So, it's just really great because when you get together, we don't have to ask, is that oil free? Did you put,
Right.
we know the rules going into this. And
Yep.
so it's so awesome. Oh my gosh. Well, as you begin these changes, I mean, I think there's, part of the pillars of lifestyle management that go along with this. What lifestyle changes do you recommend?
In lifestyle medicine, there are 6 pillars. So I do recommend looking at all of those to see, how you're doing, how you're faring on those. Number one is a whole food plant-based diet that's free of oil, right? Minimally processed. There's exercise or daily physical activity, making sure you're getting enough just physical activity. It doesn't even need to be exercise necessarily. I mean, even in the blue zones, they say the best form of exercise is gardening because it's constant movement, right? And you have a reason to go and do it every day instead of just, oh, I got to set my alarm for 5 a.m. so I can go to the gym. You have a reason because you're nurturing these plants. And then there's making sure you're getting enough sleep. Sleep is huge. Sleep is such a big part of people's lives. I mean, it's really hard to really be successful in anything if you're not getting enough sleep. Stress management, a lot of people are stressed these days. Relationships and making sure that you're not socially isolated, right? That's a huge one that we kind of talked a little bit briefly about, but making sure that you have a support system, whether it's a plant-based support system or not, having friends, having people to talk to, so important. And then staying away from harmful substances. So those are the 6 pillars, but I will say that I like to also add on making sure that you have in Japanese, they call it the ikigai. And they talk about this in the blue zones as well, but it's that what wakes you up in the morning? What gets you excited about life? What is your purpose? Sometimes that can feel a little overwhelming, like, oh, I don't know, what is that? I guess I got to come up with that. But it really doesn't have to be anything huge. You don't have to become a rocket scientist, right? It could be something like I love spending time with my grandchildren. It can be really something very simple. I love getting out in my garden. I wake up in the morning excited to get out and dig in the dirt. But having something that just gets you excited about life, I think, is so important. So those are kinds of things that I think about when I think about lifestyle medicine. But I will say that most people who come to see me, it's people who are either interested in transitioning to a plant-based diet or people who are already plant-based and really struggling with certain aspects of their labs or their diet or their community or whatever it is, or their doctor is just not very supportive of their diet and they're pushing things like, you got to add meat back into your diet and things like that. I'm going to start this medication, and by the way, you're going to be on it for life.
I had to switch insurances and they kept pinging me. You have to have a primary care. You have to have. So I hadn't done blood work in a while. So I'm like, okay, let me just go and do a new patient and get some blood work done. And I'm there like, I haven't had my TMAO done in a while. Could you add that to the blood work? And she was just like, what? I'm like, TMAO? I don't know. I can't order anything if I don't know what it is. Okay. How about C-reactive protein? Do we know what that is? Can you order that? Well, why would you want to do that? It's not going to change once you have it done. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, wow. I mean, just like, and then my blood work came back and I was a little bit low in B12. And I said to her, so which camp are you in, methylcobalamin or cyanocobalamin? And she just looked at me like, we just recommend that we take a supplement. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Wow. You got some work to do there. But it is when you have a doctor who is plant-based and understands the profound changes that are going to be happening to your body in a very short period of time. Like seriously, especially if you're dealing with diabetes and hypertension. Without
Yes.
question, your medication is going to need to be adjusted. So I think about, like Kim Williams, who basically said either you're vegan or you haven't read the research. I mean, he's the
Yeah.
former president of like what, American Heart Association, something like that.
Doesn't he also say the number one killer of cardiologists is heart disease?
Right, right. It's like, at what point, do
Yeah.
you read the literature and catch up with what's going on?
Well, it's hard though. I mean, you go through all this training and you think that you're going to be given everything that you need. And I mean, honestly, we have to learn a lot of medication names, a lot of conditions. And at the end of the day, they just don't teach nutrition. They don't teach lifestyle medicine in medical school. So you don't learn that. And the only reason I've learned all of these things is because I'm passionate about it. And I went out and did my own research and training, right?
No, it's true. You don't
Yeah.
get, and that just makes me like, wait. So you have no training in the fuel that runs this high performance vehicle?
I know 4 years of medical school and you don't get that. I mean, I learned the macronutrients, you
Yeah.
know,
How to prevent
carbohydrates,
scurvy?
protein. Yeah. Right, exactly.
Yeah, I think we got scurvy down. We're good. I think we got that taken care of. But
But
it's
yeah,
more
you
of
don't
like,
learn what does a healthy diet look like? What does a healthy lifestyle look like? The only thing that they will say to us is, okay, if you have someone come in and maybe their blood pressure is a little high or maybe they're pre-diabetic, you really do need to talk about lifestyle. But they don't talk about like what do you actually say to this person? Just talk about lifestyle. And then it turns out when you have those 5 or 10 minutes with that patient, you don't really have enough time to talk about it, right? You're just quickly going through all the things that the insurance company requires that you go through. And you're probably just writing a script at the end of it. I mean, even me, who was very passionate about it during medical school, right? I went back and did medicine because I wanted to be a plant based doctor and a lifestyle medicine doctor. Even I found it challenging to introduce that in every single encounter that I had. So a lot of times I was just printing out information. If somebody had high blood pressure, I would at least give them a handout about how a plant-based diet can help. But it was hard to find the time. So if you don't know about it and you don't have the time, it's you're kind of stuck.
100% because you literally tick, 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 tick. You would you get 15 minutes, and now they
If
can even
that,
catch you. I mean, like if you're going in for an actual physical visit, so it might as well be telemedicine. And
I know.
speaking of telemedicine, formerly it was plant-based telehealth, and now it's Love.Life, and you are a doctor there. And I just want to point out, are you guys listening? She's certified in Massachusetts. Just want to say that because yeah, so happy you are certified in Massachusetts. So,
Yes.
yes. And you've got a bunch of other states. So, if you could tell us what states you're certified in, and then walk us through how you work with your patients there.
Sure. So first of all, the website is telehealth.love.life. So that's how you can go and look up all of the doctors that I work with. So there are 8 of us, and between all 8 of us, we are licensed in all 50 states, DC, and we can see people internationally. So no matter where you are, as long as you've got an internet connection or a phone, we can meet with you. So the states that I am licensed in, like you mentioned, Massachusetts, I'm super excited about. That's a new one. Arizona, California, Colorado, Florida, Louisiana, North Dakota, Oregon, South Dakota, Texas, Utah, and Washington.
Procedure, like when somebody starts new, and I'm assuming you're
Yeah.
taking new patients, and
Yep.
what's the procedure? What do they, how does it work?
Yeah. So the first thing is, you go to the website, you schedule an appointment, you are going to be given a series of questionnaires. It takes some time to fill out, but you get 60 minutes for your first appointment, and then most follow-ups are 30 minutes. So you're going to get a lot of time with the doctor. And what's really nice is by filling out this questionnaire that goes through not only your past medical history and all of that, but it's also going through your lifestyle. What does your diet look like? What do you struggle with your diet? What does your exercise routine look like? How are you sleeping? It's going through all of those things. I review that entire questionnaire before we even sit down to talk. So those 60 minutes, already have the background, and that way we get more out of our time together. So we get those entire 60 minutes. You're not having to wait in a waiting room. You're not having to get time off work necessarily. You're not having to drive somewhere, wait for the nurse to come get you, check your blood pressure, sit down. You get to be wherever you want. So that's where we start is you fill out those things. It includes like a 3-day food diary. I listen, I get to hear what's going on with you, and we don't feel rushed. Feel like we have enough time to really get through the things that you want to discuss. And it's all based on you. And so it really is just this wonderful way to sit down with somebody who is living the lifestyle that you want to live and is supportive of what your goals are. So, for instance, if I have someone who says, I really don't want to be on this medication for lowering my cholesterol, what can I do? That's the goal, is to get off that medication. Whereas you might sit down with your primary doctor and they might say, well, sorry, this is a medication you have to be on for life because diet really doesn't make a difference. And that's frustrating, right? That feels like you're not in control, but you are in control of your health. You are in control. And I want to help you take back that control. And so we go through, okay, what would it take for you to be able to get off that medication? So I mean, I have to pinch myself that I get to do this. I'm so glad that I'm done with school. I mean, having gone through and done engineering and medicine and residency and all of that, whew, I'm glad I'm done. But now that I'm on the other side of it and I actually get to see these patients of mine every day, I just love it. And I know this is like off topic a little bit, but so many doctors are burned out. And I can absolutely see why. Because when I was in residency, it was rough. And that was 3 years, right? But lifestyle medicine is a way for even doctors to like get back that joy of helping other people because you get to see people get well finally, instead of just adding more medications and see people get sicker. So it's not only, it's just amazing that I get to see people having that joy in their lives again and feeling good, but it also really benefits me too. So it's just this win-win situation.
100%. And I have to agree, because like once I stepped back into traditional medicine, I was like, really? Wow. And because I pretty much deal with plant-based docs and it's a different world. It is 100% different world. We're focusing on your health, not your disease. We want to get
Right.
your health back. And you can. And that's the thing. Our body is so amazing that we can regain a lot of our health. I mean, there's certain things that we can't go backwards, like, type 1 diabetes. Yeah, no, your pancreas, we're gone out, done. You're not getting that
Yeah.
back. But, there's a lot of things that are food driven that can be reversed, 100.
Well, and what's interesting when you say that is you're right. Type 1 diabetes isn't reversible, but it turns out that a lot of people with type 1 diabetes are also insulin resistant, which is just another way of saying type 2 diabetic in a way. And you can absolutely reduce your insulin requirements by switching to a plant-based diet, even if it's type 1 diabetes. So you can still see improvements in things that you think there's just no way. I mean, I have something where I'm just going to have to be on this medication for life. Well, it turns out that a plant-based diet and a healthy lifestyle really can improve so many things. I mean, including you mentioned thyroid. You know, I see a lot of people who have autoimmune thyroid where they have low thyroid based on an autoimmune condition. So that one's very difficult to reverse, if not impossible to reverse. But by going plant-based, I've seen a lot of people reduce medications over time. So we're still seeing those improvements in things that you would normally think you shouldn't see improvements.
Right? 100%. And when my thyroid started going, she immediately put me on, thyroid medication and just, and I saw the refill 4 and I'm like, how long am I supposed to be on this?
Yeah.
And she said for life. And I'm like, no, I'm not a pill person. And she's like, when your thyroid goes, you can't get it back. And I'm like, yeah. I said, well, and we measured it to begin when I started this journey. And then I think it was 8 months in, she got, we did more blood work and she's like, oh, and she's like, I'm like, what does that mean? You always hate it when a doctor goes, oh.
Yeah. Right.
So she's like, well, I think I'm gonna have to take you off the medicine. And I'm like, oh, could it be that my thyroid is healing? No. And her response, and she said this a couple of times throughout my journey. This is way back, this is like 15 years ago. She's like, well, I think it was probably bad blood work. Really? I get no credit on any level for this?
Right.
Bad blood work. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good.
Yeah. Well, and I've had that experience too with other physicians where they just it's unbelievable, right? You're not used to seeing 100-point drop in cholesterol with no medications. So you think, well, there's got to be something else going on here. It can't just be the diet.
Right? Right?
But that's what I see every day. I get to see that every day. So it's very typical for me.
It's so when you can see somebody heal and you know that you're helping them, it's got to be the best feeling in the world, you know?
It is.
Percent. Well, what are 3 things that someone can do to help start this journey?
We talked a little bit about this, having the community, making sure that you have support. That's really, really important from the get go. I would say also making sure that your environment is clean. I don't want that to feel restrictive, like, oh, you got to go in and just remove everything. But really, if you have this goal in mind that you want to be healthy, just let your environment match that. So just create an environment that matches what you want your life to look like. That's as simple as it is. And so if you've got Twinkies and French fries in the freezer, you got to get rid of those. Whether or not you just dump them in the trash or give them to somebody you don't like, I'll leave that to you. The other thing is to start simple. I don't think, for some people going overnight from more of a standard American diet to a plant-based diet, they've got a really significant reason why. Maybe they had a health scare and they are just very committed and that works for them. But for a lot of people, it's hard to make that quick adjustment, this overnight change. And so I talk to people about just starting out really simple. Don't do anything crazy. Either you could just focus on one meal a day to start, like just breakfast. Breakfast is really easy because, there's oatmeal and there's cereal and there's fruit, smoothies. I mean, there's so many things that you can have for breakfast easily that are plant-based. The other thing is to just add something into your diet. So, add a couple of potatoes a day, a cup of rice a day, so that it kind of crowds out the other foods. So you're filling up on those foods, and then you just end up eating less of the other foods because you're adding in those things. Like, this is a journey. This is not meant to be a perfect contest, and it's not meant to be overnight. You're doing this for the long haul. You're doing this for the rest of your life. So think of it as a lifestyle journey that you are getting to be on. It's an exciting journey. You get to discover so many new foods and recipes and plants that you never imagined, meet amazing people. So just get excited about this, that this is like a really fun roller coaster that you get a free ticket to.
And it's so amazing. And I agree 100% because I use the phrase, make your kitchen your wellness center, because that's where your wellness is going to begin, is what's going into your mouth. Because if it's in your house, it's in your mouth. I mean, without question, it's not
Yeah.
a if, but when. Especially because, like, I'm a food addict, and I'll be the first to go, "Hi, I'm Gene Schumacher. I'm a food addict." I am, and I know it. And one day my husband came home with a bag of nuts and dark chocolate, and it was, relatively healthy, but I had been very clean and had no, like, anything like high concentration of sugar like chocolate. And he poured the bag into my hand, and my brain lit up like it was on fire. And I
Yeah.
ate that bag, and then I went downstairs and went, "Do you have any more?" And he goes, like, "I
Yep.
might have another bag in the car. Why?" And I'm like, "Go get it."
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And then
Exactly.
the next week, every night he came home, I was like, "Do you have any more of those? Did you bring any of those home?" And I'm like, in a true addict fashion, that I was looking for those high caloric density foods, and it was hitting my brain, and it lit my brain up like if it like like a pinball machine. And so I know that about myself, and I'm learning a lot about myself and on many levels. But making your home your wellness center, I have the freedom to eat. I can go down to my kitchen and I can eat anything in my kitchen, and I don't have to feel guilty about it because it is plant-based. Now, there's going to be some things that are a little bit higher caloric density than others, but there's nothing in my kitchen that I cannot have. And that is true freedom. True
Yeah.
freedom to eat.
It really is.
So thank you, Dr. Davis, the former rocket scientist. I just love that. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with me here today.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Jean. It was just an incredible pleasure to get to talk to you. And as you can tell, I think you and I both could talk about this forever.
Right.
And we will continue to.